Rosamund was a Lombard queen. She was the daughter of Cunimund, king of the Gepids, and wife of Alboin, king of the Lombards. Rosamund was born into a kingdom in crisis, as the Gepid people had been fighting a losing battle against the Lombards since 546, firstly within the context of a Lombardic-Byzantine alliance, and later against the Lombards and the Turkish nomads. These wars had taken the lives of not only her grandfather King Therismund, but also her uncle, Therismund, both of which served to establish a long-standing hatred of the Lombards in her father Cunimund, which he passed down to her. This hatred was what spawned the final war of the Gepids, as Cunimund attempted to win back lost lands against the Lombards. The war, however, quickly turned, and in 567, the Gepid kingdom would be completely subdued by a mixture of Lombard and Avar forces. Her father was decapitated and she, along with many other Gepids, was taken as a prisoner of the Lombards. However, in an attempt to secure a male heir and following the death of his first wife Clotswenda of Francia, Alboin took her as his wife. Alboin was noted for his cruelty towards her. His most famous act of cruelty was reported by Paulus Diagonus, who states that at a royal banquet in Verona, Alboin forced her to drink from the skull of her dead father, inviting her to drink merrily with her father. After this, she began plotting to have her husband assassinated. Thus, Rosamund met with the king's arms-bearer and her lover, Helmichius, who suggested using Peridea, a very strong man, to accomplish the assassination. Peridea refused to help, and at night mistakenly had intercourse with Rosamund, who was disguised as a servant. After learning that he had committed adultery with his king's wife, Peridea agreed to take part in an assassination attempt in fear of the king's retribution. After the great feast, Alboin went to bed inebriated, at which point Rosamund ordered the king's sword bound to his bedpost, so that should he wake in the middle of the assassination attempt, he would be defenseless. Alboin did wake, only to find himself unarmed. He fended off his attackers temporarily with a footstool, but was killed, due in part to the work of Paulus Diagonus. There seems to be some confusion about who actually killed Alboin, with both Helmichius and Peridea assigned as sole murderer. Immediately afterwards, Helmichius planned to marry Rosamund and usurp the throne by claiming kingship. However, this plan gained little support from the various duchies of the Lombard kingdom, so Rosamund, Helmichius, and Albsuinda, Alboin's daughter by his first wife, fled together to the Byzantine stronghold of Ravenna with a large proportion of Alboin's private treasures. Rosamund and Helmichius married in Ravenna, but were soon divided when Rosamund, in an attempt to curry favor, took as a lover Longinus, the ex-arch, who had helped them plan the murder of Alboin. At the urging of Longinus, who promised to marry her, she attempted to murder her former lover Helmichius by poisoning, handing him the drink after he had washed. However, she was instead murdered by Helmichius, who forced her to drink the poison before committing suicide by the same means. Rosamund in later culture. Rosamund would inspire many later tragedies based on her life, particularly in Italy, where the folk song Donna Lombarda was passed down orally through the generations, inspiring later renditions of the tale. Medieval folk tales and legends developed. The first true tragedy, Giovanni Rucellai's Rosamunda, was first performed in 1525 and would serve as the basis for many later tellings of the story in the Italian language, such as Vittorio Alfieri's 1783 work of the same name and a Sambinelli play of 1911. The conspiracy to murder Alboin also inspired the 1961 Halves film, Rosmundi Alboino, aka Sword of the Conqueror etc., by Carlo Campogalliani. In the English language, the story would also be considered a tragedy, albeit more often neglected than in the Italian tradition, but would be treated by the pre-Raphaelite poet Algernon Charles Swinburne in his 1899 work Rosamund, Queen of the Lombards. In 1665 Urban Hyern wrote a comedy in Swedish on the same matter, Rosamund, which became the first original play in that language known to have actually been staged as entertainment for the young queen.